They shoved a 90-year-old veteran into the street for laughs. 20 minutes later, the Marines surrounded them. Clarence M. Doyle never missed his morning walk. Rain, wind, or the thick gray fog that sometimes rolled through the streets of East Oakland. None of it stopped him. At 90 years old, he still tied the laces of his worn walking shoes with the precision of a man who once stood at attention on military parade grounds. His steps had slowed over the years, but his spirit hadn't. Everyone on 78th Avenue knew Mr. Doyle, not as some distant elderly man in the background, but as a fixture, a neighbor, a storyteller, a Marine. "Morning, Clarence," yelled Mr. Kelvin from his porch, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a newspaper in the other. "Semper Fi, Kelvin," Clarence answered, tapping the brim of his cap with 2 fingers. That cap had seen better days, but to him, it meant everything. It was forest green with the gold Marine emblem in the center, faded from years of sun, sweat, and stories. He passed the corner store on MacArthur Boulevard, the one where he bought his favorite hard peppermint candy. Every Sunday, the owner, Raj, left a small paper bag waiting for him at the counter. No charge. Today, Clarence paused outside the store, adjusted his glasses, and took a moment to rest against the lamppost. His joints ached more than usual, but he never complained. In fact, he rarely said anything negative. Not after what he'd seen during the war, not after the friends he'd buried. Life, to Clarence, was a gift, even the hard parts. He smiled at a little girl riding a pink bike, training wheels clattering over the sidewalk. "Be careful now," he called. She smiled back. "I will, Mr. Clarence." Small moments like that filled his walks. They were like bookmarks in the long story of his life. Clarence turned the corner and waited patiently at the crosswalk. The red hand blinked above. He stood still, hands behind his back like always. That's when he heard it, laughter, young voices, loud, rowdy, coming fast behind him. It wasn't unusual to see teenagers around. Sometimes they spoke to him, asked about the patch on his jacket, or asked if he really fought in a war. He always answered. He wanted them to know that history wasn't just something in textbooks. It walked beside them every day. But this group felt different. 5 boys, hoodies up, phones out, filming each other, talking fast. Clarence could hear snippets. "Watch this," one of them said. He turned slightly to glance back, but he didn't get a good look before. But what happened next would change everything, and not just for Clarence. The boy moved fast. Clarence didn't even see the shove coming, just a sudden jolt, a hard, unexpected push from behind that sent him stumbling forward off the curb. His arms flailed, his knees buckled, his body, already fragile with age, couldn't correct the momentum. And then the sound, sharp, hollow, his body hitting the asphalt. His cap spun off his head and landed a few feet away in the street, motionless, like him. Cars screeched to a stop. A driver laid on the horn, but nobody moved. The teens erupted into laughter, real, full-blown laughter. One of them kept the phone steady, recording. Another mimicked Clarence's fall, stumbling in circles as his friends egged him on. "Damn! He fell like a tree! Upload that! Tag it Boomer Drop!" Clarence didn't move. He lay still, blinking slowly, his breath shallow. He could feel the sharp pain in his shoulder, a burning sting across his hip, and a warm trickle on his face. The pavement smelled like oil and heat. "Hey, hey! What the hell is wrong with you?" a voice shouted. It was a woman, middle-aged, holding a bag of groceries. She ran out from the sidewalk and knelt beside Clarence, setting the bag down carelessly, oranges rolling out. Sir, can you hear me?" Clarence blinked again. She turned toward the boys. "You pushed him! What is wrong with you?" One of the teens glanced around nervously. "Chill, lady. He's fine. It was just a joke." "A joke?" she screamed. "He could have broken his back." Other bystanders began gathering. A man in a work uniform stood beside her, pulling out his phone, not to record, but to call. "Police. Yeah, I need an ambulance too. Elderly man just got assaulted. East 78th and MacArthur. Hurry." The teens were no longer laughing. They backed up, still unsure of what to do, but reluctant to run. The boy who pushed Clarence mumbled under his breath. "Dude was in the way." "In the way?" the woman snapped. "He's 90. Clarence stirred, barely. His lips parted as if to say something, but only a faint whisper came out. No one could make it out. The man on the phone knelt down beside him. "Hang in there, sir. Help is coming." The cap, his Marine cap, still sat in the road, a tire inches away. Someone picked it up and carefully brushed it off, placing it back next to Clarence's hand. And across the street, someone else had been filming. Not the shove, but the aftermath. A young man in his 20s, wearing a hoodie and AirPods. He hadn't stepped in. Not at first. But he saw what happened, and he knew exactly who Clarence was. He stopped recording, opened his group chat, the one with the old guys, the OG Marines thread. He typed 2 words. They got Doyle. But that message would travel farther and faster than anyone expected. Sirens hadn't even started wailing when the block began to shift. From porches, driveways, and behind screen doors, neighbors stepped out. Not out of curiosity, but concern. Clarence M. Doyle wasn't just someone you passed on the street. He was a thread in the fabric of this community, a reminder that real strength didn't always come from loud voices or fast hands, but from showing up. Every day, quiet, steady, consistent. Martha, a retired school secretary who lived 2 houses down, stood frozen with her hand over her mouth. "Is that Clarence?" she asked no one in particular. Her voice trembled. "Did they hurt him?" Another neighbor, Jorge, walked briskly toward the scene, having left his car idling in the middle of the road. "They better not have touched him," he muttered. The woman with the groceries, now crouched at Clarence's side, kept wiping blood from his forehead with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. "Stay with us, Mr. Doyle," she whispered. "You're okay. You're safe." The teens had scattered by then, half jogging down the street, 2 others ducking into the convenience store nearby. The one with the phone still in his hand paused near the entrance. For a second, it looked like he wanted to turn around and apologize, but he didn't. He followed the others inside. Someone had taken a picture, not just of Clarence on the ground, but of the group just after the shove. Faces visible, blurry in motion, but clear enough. That photo hit social media before the sirens did. Clarence's fall wasn't just an incident now. It was a moment. It was real. Back at the scene, a beat-up Chevy Impala pulled up to the curb. The driver, late 40s, broad shoulders, eyes locked on Clarence, didn't park. He stopped. Like everything in him said, "Get out now." He did. Tobias Tank McConnell, former gunnery sergeant, now working private security at the Port of Oakland, stepped out. Tank didn't speak at first. He didn't need to. He walked over, knelt next to Clarence, and placed a hand gently on the old man's shoulder. "Still with us, sir?" he asked, voice low and steady. Clarence moved his fingers. Tank looked up at the small crowd. "He needs space. Step back. Let the paramedics work when they get here." Then Tank scanned the block. His jaw clenched, not in anger, but focus. He'd already seen the video. One of the younger vets had sent it to him 2 minutes before he arrived. Behind him, another car pulled up, then a motorcycle, then a van. Each door opened with the same energy, controlled, silent, firm. Men and women in military jackets, some in uniform, others in casual clothes, all of them walking the same way, like they meant it. A few people in the crowd started whispering, "Wait, is that... It's the Marines. They're really showing up for him." They weren't there to fight. They didn't yell. They didn't touch the teens. They didn't need to. Their presence alone shifted the air. Tank stood now, pulled out his phone, one group chat. That was all it took. But what those teens didn't know yet was that this group didn't forget their own. Not ever. The message hit at 9:17 a.m. They got Doyle. It wasn't long. It didn't have to be. Just 5 syllables that dropped like a hammer in the OG Marines chat. Over 30 names lit up the screen, most of them old enough to know back pain before breakfast, but young enough in the heart to still react like they were 25 and back in uniform. Some lived in Oakland, some across the Bay in Daly City, a few even up in Sacramento. But it didn't matter where they were. Once that text landed, everyone moved. No one asked, "What happened?" No one said, "Are you sure it was him?" They all knew Clarence Doyle. He wasn't just some vet they saw at parades. He was the guy who never missed the weekly breakfast meetups at Slim's Cafe. He was the one who helped pay a young Marine's rent once without saying a word. The one who still handed out handwritten birthday cards every year. And maybe most of all, he was the one who never missed a walk. That silence from him? That wasn't right. 20 minutes after the message went out, the group chat exploded with location pins. Tank was already on site. East 78th and MacArthur. He's down. Ambulance en route. Teens involved. No theatrics, no emotion in the text, just cold, clean info. But that made it hit even harder. A response came in seconds later. On my way, 10 minutes. ETA 14 minutes. Loading up now. Clarence's old squad leader, now 76 and walking with a cane, sent a single-word reply. Moving. By 9:34 a.m., a loose formation began pulling up on the block. They didn't come in formation. This wasn't the military anymore. But something about the way they exited their vehicles said discipline had never left them. One of the younger guys, 28-year-old Malik Wynn, tall, quiet, fresh fade under his beanie, pulled up on a borrowed moped, parking it sideways on the grass. He spotted Tank and gave a firm nod. How bad? Bad enough, Tank replied. Shoulders dislocated. Head hit the pavement. Malik shook his head. You know, he was just at breakfast Wednesday. Told me my generation needs thicker skin. Tank half smiled. That's Doyle. By now, there were more than a dozen Marines on the block. One by one, they lined the sidewalk. Not in aggression, not even confrontation. In formation. Across the street, someone inside the store peeked out. One of the teens. He spotted the line of Marines and froze. The rest were still inside, watching the video on one of their phones, still half laughing, until the first teen muttered, Yo, they're outside. Who? He looked again. All of them, like Marines, real ones. Phones dropped. The laughter stopped. Nobody had planned on this. This wasn't a part of the joke. Back outside, Tank looked up and down the line of brothers and sisters. Doyle gave everything to this country, gave everything to this neighborhood. This ain't about swinging fists. It's about reminding people who he is, who we are, what we don't allow. They didn't reply. They didn't have to. Each person in that line knew exactly why they were there. Malik folded his arms. People forget quick. We're just here to help them remember. And just as the ambulance pulled up, red and white lights flashing across faces that had seen war and peace alike, the door of the convenience store slowly creaked open. One of the teens stepped out, the youngest-looking one. No phone, no swagger, just wide eyes and shaking hands. But one apology wasn't going to be enough. Not today. Not for this. The air on the block felt different now, like something ancient had stirred. No one said it out loud, but everyone watching could feel it. This wasn't just about Clarence anymore. It was about all of them. Every old man who walked a little slower. Every neighbor who looked out for the kids who never looked back. Every moment, someone thought they could get away with doing something ugly to someone kind. Clarence Doyle had been the neighborhood's foundation for decades, and when someone kicks the foundation, walls tend to shake. The Marines weren't done gathering. A black Suburban rolled up. Out stepped three more men. One was white, one Samoan, one light-skinned with a salt and pepper beard and a noticeable limp. All Marines. Not all were from Oakland, but they were Doyle's people. The youngest, a guy named Rico Figueroa, barely 30 and built like a linebacker, walked toward Tank with quiet urgency. Just saw the footage, he said. That's the man who used to read to my brother at the VA. Tank nodded. Same man. Rico turned toward the store, his jaw clenched. They still in there? Tank didn't look. One came out, not the one who pushed him. Rico said nothing more. He stepped into the line. Another car pulled up behind them. A woman stepped out this time. Broad-shouldered, clean-cut, in pressed slacks, and a tucked-in polo shirt with the Marine emblem stitched above the pocket. Her name was Denise Carter, retired Master Sergeant. She surveyed the scene. How bad? Ambulance just loaded him, Malik replied. Shoulders out, head's bleeding. Denise exhaled slowly. He's tough. He's 90. That's what I mean. By now, nearly 24 Marines stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the store. Some locals joined behind them, not in military gear, but in unity. Young men, old women, kids clinging to parents' legs. Inside the store, the mood had shifted hard. The teens weren't watching the video anymore. They were pacing, fidgeting. One leaned against a shelf of snacks, arms crossed, trying to keep his cool. But his voice cracked when he said, Why are they here, man? We didn't even hurt him that bad. The one who pushed Clarence said nothing. He just stared out the glass door. At the cap. The same Marine cap someone had placed on the ambulance gurney, right next to Clarence's hand. He'd seen it before. A few weeks ago, walking home from school, he'd passed Clarence by the bus stop. Clarence had waved. The kid didn't wave back. But he remembered the cap. It wasn't supposed to go like this. Not really. He thought it'd be funny. A little video, something for a quick laugh. But now? Now there were grown men and women standing outside in absolute silence. No yelling, no threats. Just standing, watching. And that was worse. The youngest of the group, Ty, just 15, spoke first. "We should go out there." "You crazy?" one snapped. But Ty stepped forward anyway. His hand trembled on the doorknob. Outside, the Marines shifted slightly. Not threatening, just attentive. Ty pushed the door open. He took 3 steps out. The block went quiet again. He looked up at the row of people in front of him, tried to speak, couldn't. Tank took 1 step forward, just one. "You push him?" Ty swallowed. "No, it wasn't me. But I was there. I laughed. I filmed." "Then speak up." Ty looked down at the ground. "I'm sorry." But a sorry isn't enough when respect was thrown into the street like trash. Ty stood there, frozen, all eyes on him. And for the first time that day, silence actually weighed something. He looked small, not just in size, but in truth, like someone who realized he might have cost more than he ever meant to spend. Tank didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "You laughed while a 90-year-old man hit the pavement. That funny to you?" Ty shook his head. "Then where's the one who pushed him?" Ty hesitated. He looked back over his shoulder, through the store's glass door, where the others were watching, but not moving. Tank turned to the line. "Bring him out." Malik and Denise stepped forward without a word. Denise didn't walk fast. She didn't slam the door. She just opened it, stepped inside, and locked eyes with the kid still holding the phone, the one who shoved Clarence. "Let's go," she said. He stiffened. "I didn't mean to hurt him." "I didn't ask that," Denise interrupted. "You shoved him. Own it." He stayed frozen. Malik stepped in, taller than everyone in the room. Calm, quiet. "We ain't here to beat you. We're not you." That hit. The boy, his name was Raheem, though most people just called him Reem, lowered his eyes. And finally, he walked out. Not with a sense of pride, not even with courage, just weight. Clarence's cap still sat beside the curb. Reem glanced at it as he stepped forward, now standing next to Ty. Rico stepped up beside Tank, watching Reem like he didn't know whether to forgive him or fold him. "Name," Rico said flatly. "Reem, Raheem Jennings." "Raheem, why?" "I don't know, man." His voice cracked. "I didn't think. It was just a video. I didn't think he'd fall like that." "You didn't think," Tank repeated. "I didn't think he was that old." Tank's eyes narrowed. "He's 90. What did you think he was? Middle-aged?" Reem opened his mouth, but no words came out. Denise stepped forward again, her voice low but sharp. "You think this is a movie? You think people are props in your phone? That man walked this neighborhood longer than you've been alive. That man fought so you could act like this without ever knowing what real fear looks like." Reem's hands trembled. He put the phone in his pocket. "I didn't mean for it to go that far." Tank looked at him, then down at the ground, then back up. "You're lucky." Reem blinked. "What?" "You're lucky that the only thing broken today might be his shoulder. Because if that man died in the street while you laughed..." Tank didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The block already understood the rest. The ambulance had pulled away 5 minutes ago. Clarence was stable, breathing, but still unconscious. Tank turned to the others. "He's at Highland. If y'all want to do something real, go there. Sit with him. Wait outside. Write him a letter. Help his neighbor cut his grass next week." Denise added, "And delete that video." Reem pulled out the phone, opened his gallery, and deleted it right there in front of everyone. Then opened his social media, deleted the post. Ty did the same. Then Ty stepped forward again. "I didn't grow up with a dad," he said quietly. "Never had someone like him around. I didn't know better." Denise looked at him hard. "You know now." He nodded. Tank motioned to the others. "Let's clear the block. Let the neighborhood breathe." One by one, the Marines stepped away. No one cheered, No one clapped. That's not why they came. They came to stand up, and to remind others what standing up looks like. But the story wasn't finished, not until they knew Clarence would open his eyes again. Clarence woke up just after 2:00 p.m. The light in the hospital room was soft, filtered through blinds that buzzed slightly from the old window unit. His shoulder was wrapped tight, and the left side of his face was bandaged from where it scraped the pavement. Everything hurt. But pain was an old friend, one he'd walked alongside for decades. He blinked slowly, turned his head just enough to see the chair next to his bed. Malik sat there, arms crossed, nodding off. Clarence cleared his throat. Malik jumped. "Sir, Mr. Doyle, you're awake." Clarence gave him a slow smile. "I better be. Can't have y'all wasting time on a corpse." Malik laughed, relieved. "You scared us, man." "Did I at least land better than I did in Korea?" Malik leaned in. "No, sir, but it was close." Clarence coughed. "Where's my cap?" Malik held it up. "Safe, right here." Clarence stared at it. "They pushed me." Malik nodded. "Kids?" "Teenagers. Dumb ones. But we handled it." Clarence closed his eyes for a long moment, then opened them again. "I don't want jail," he said. Malik looked surprised. "What?" "I said I don't want jail for them." "Mr. Doyle, they shoved you into the street. And I've had rifles pointed at me from less than 10 feet. A shove don't make them monsters. It makes them lost. Ain't the same." Malik shook his head. "You're different, sir." Clarence shrugged with his good shoulder. "They need consequences, not cages. Real ones. Make them face what they did. But don't lock away their whole lives because of one moment of stupid." Malik didn't answer. He just looked at the man in that bed and realized, for the 100th time, what real strength looked like. By the next morning, Clarence had over 50 visitors. Some just sat outside the hospital with coffee and folding chairs. Reem and Ty showed up too. They didn't walk through the main entrance. They came around the back, unsure if they even had the right to be there. But Malik was waiting. He handed them both a folded piece of paper. On it was a schedule: yard work, grocery drop-offs, VA transport runs, community service, real community service. And at the bottom, you don't get to say sorry and walk away. You show up, like he always did. They nodded. 2 days later, Clarence returned home. His porch had been swept. His lawn was trimmed. Someone had left a new box of peppermint candy on the doorstep. When he opened his mailbox, there were letters, dozens of them, from kids he'd helped, Marines he hadn't seen in years, strangers. One was from Reem, handwritten, a full page. Clarence didn't say much after reading it, just folded it, tucked it in the brim of his cap, and went outside for a walk. Slower now, careful, but still walking. Neighbors waved, cars stopped, and on the corner of East 78th and MacArthur, someone had painted something new on the sidewalk in bold letters: "Respect the walk." But Clarence wasn't walking for attention. He was walking because that's what he'd always done, keep moving, no matter what. 3 weeks later, Clarence sat in his favorite chair on the porch, same cap, same jacket, same slow sip from a chipped mug filled with strong coffee and a splash of cream. Life didn't go back to normal. It adjusted. People waved longer now. They crossed the street to speak instead of nodding from a distance. The teens who once walked by with earbuds in now stopped to say, "Good morning, Mr. Doyle." Reem came by every Friday to mow the lawn. Ty sat on the porch with him once a week to talk, not because he had to, because he wanted to. One afternoon, Ty asked him, "Why'd you forgive us so fast?" Clarence looked at him, thought for a moment. "Because someone forgave me once too, a long time ago. We don't grow if nobody gives us space to change." Ty sat with that. "You don't think we're just bad kids?" Clarence shook his head. "I think y'all just didn't know better, but now you do. That's when choices matter most. After you know better." The Marines didn't come around every day anymore, but when they did, it wasn't to protect Clarence. It was to sit, talk, laugh, to be around the man who reminded them why they wore the uniform in the first place. And the neighborhood, well, it remembered too. That moment when silence stood stronger than shouting, when no fists flew, but truth hit harder than any punch. What happened to Clarence Doyle could have been another forgotten clip, buried in timelines and tossed in a sea of content. But it wasn't, because people stood up, because respect isn't optional. It's a responsibility. Because when someone who's walked before you stumbles, you don't record it and laugh. You lift them. And when you mess up, truly mess up, you don't run. You show up. Don't wait for someone else to do the right thing. Be the one who steps in. Be the one who protects. Be the one who remembers. If you've ever had someone in your life like Clarence, someone who showed you what integrity looks like, reach out. Tell them what they meant to you. And if you haven't, be that person for someone else.